Ariel, are you ready?
Am I ready for what, Adam?
Discussing your beautiful chapter.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I gave away the ending. Great chapter.
Yeah.
But in keeping with our theme for today, we still want to do the retelling test on it. And I'm going to ask the person who will bring the freshest view to that chapter, which is Cece. So Cece, whenever you're ready, please retell the chapter in your own words.
Ooh, okay. Remy, can I ask a pronunciation? Is it Remy? Yeah, okay. Remy and Benny are on their next mission / task, which includes slaying a boy demon band that is basically manipulating their fans' souls. So they are at a concert or / festival, excuse me. It's a festival. It's not a concert. It's a festival in the caves. And they are talking to one of the, I guess, workers, and they're being stationed to their first task. And during that, Benny has a comical moment of pretending they are someone they're not, because there is this insinuation that they have a bad rap right now and no money to their name, so they can't really go around saying who they really are. And upon their first task, there is a bridge, and because it's a festival, people are falling off this bridge, and their job with a dragon, because Benny is a dragon, that's important to mention, they are saving these people as they plummet to their death by accident. During one of these moments, somebody is actually a person from their past, Rosanna, and upon a little bit of romantic tension and banter, we learn that Rosanna knows how to help them get closer to this band. And because they have no money to their name, and despite Remy's hesitation and Benny's push, she relents, and they decide to take Rosanna's help, and they make a plan to go through these certain caves to get to this boy band. And the name of the boy band is escaping me, but that's end scene.
Okay. So 2 quick notes, general notes about this process. 1, as always, this is not a test of the volunteer. It's not a test of Cece. It's a test of the author, in this case, Ariel, to see if the story is being told successfully. And 2, Ariel's job is just to listen. Right? Take notes. Don't interrupt. Right? After Cece, the volunteer, is done, completely done talking, only then can you interject and can you start asking a few probing questions. But before we do that, step back and try to get an overall assessment of the emotional reaction to the chapter. So, Ariel, did Cece look satisfied or unsatisfied?
I think she looks satisfied.
Good, right? Does anyone disagree? Now we're in a little bit of a elite setting, obviously, and so some of the emotional reaction to the chapter is going to be dampened. She seemed happy, right? Good enough. Now, it would have been better if we could have watched her read the chapter and seen her laughing out loud. So that's the first question I'm going to ask. Cece, did you laugh out loud at any points in the chapter?
Yeah, yeah.
Good, right? Ariel wants this to be a funny book. So when she's doing this test on a real person, not that we're not real, she should see laughter. I laughed out loud, and Cece did, and that combined with this overall assessment should give you a lot of confidence that this project is working. All right. So we're going to dive into a few details. Now we have a whole checklist of things that a first chapter has to accomplish. Same criteria we use for judging our anthology contests. I'm not going to go through them all. There's just 2 that stood out. I want to go through the ones that I think that are really good. just give me a sentence about, please, about Remma, and then one about Benny. Cece, please.
A sentence about that
One sentence about each.
each. Okay. Benny is a bounty hunter type dragon that is Remy's partner.
And an adjective or two.
He is snarky.
Good.
And then
Anything-
Remy is, I would say, adjective wise, she's pretty stubborn, and she is also a bounty hunter, and she is the human of the duo.
And
Or
how do
Faye.
they? Sorry, go. I missed that.
Out of the duo, like she's the human.
Good. How do they feel about each other?
I think they respect one another, but they also push each other's buttons.
Good. Right. So meanwhile, Ariel is thinking, is that what I want? And pretty sure so far the answer is yes. Okay. A little bit tougher. What's the most salient feature of this world? What's the most important thing you would tell someone word of mouth about this novel, about the relationship between Benny and Remma, or about the world they inhabit?
Oof. I think it's the ability that they can talk mind to mind. And okay.
Bingo. Right? Ariel's world, in fact, the entire plot, a lot of the plot turns on this telepathic link between Benny and Remma. It's a little bit concerning that she said oof, right? Researchers, feedback gatherers, you got to pay attention to exactly what they're called participant or interlocutor, what the person giving the feedback says. And that oof signals to me that we need to make that telepathy a little bit more clear early on. It's unique. I mean, well, that's a question. Is the telepathy unique? Probably, right? But it's definitely super important. And it's obvious in the reading that it's there, but it's a little unclear at which point we realize it's there. So that feeds into one comment I had. All right, the last question. No, two more questions. Tell me about the coordinator. And it's okay to say pass.
He was just there.
Now, trick question, right? Is that a good answer or bad answer? It's a great answer. Right? We don't care about the coordinator, not a main character. If Ariel would have spent too much time on the coordinator, Cece would have remembered that character. She didn't. So having a negative result in this case is a great result. Okay. So last question is, what is the choice that Remma and Benny made that launches the novel? What was the key choice they made in this chapter? As an aside, the inciting incident.
Accepting help from Rosanna.
Okay, so say more about that. What were the options and what are the stakes?
That's an interesting question. I think that the options were to figure it out by themselves, but they really have no connections or funds to do that. So I think stakes wise is they wouldn't have accomplished their goal. I'm not really sure the stakes in terms of it being Rosanna, though. I don't know that relation. Like, there wasn't enough context in terms of, I know there is a relationship, but I didn't have enough in terms of heightening that stake.
Okay, good. So Cece did a great job. Let's thank our volunteer. Thank you. And now we're going to turn to Ariel and say, how did you do, Ariel? Based on what Cece said, are you happy or do you think we need to revise?
I'm happy with most of it. I think really got Benny and Remma. Remy figured out how they feel about each other, and the mind-to-mind connection being important. I think the context between Remma and Rosanna is really important, and it's something that they were with each other in the first novella I have from them, so it's helpful to hear, like, if you're just coming in point blank, there's kind of just not enough context for them. So that's something I want to revise a bit and make that more clear, what those stakes are romantically with them.
Good. So was she right about that being the inciting incident?
Yes.
Excellent. So I would give this a 95. Just a little bit more context on the inciting incident. I think this is Ariel's second crack at a first chapter. Ariel's a very experienced writer, and I'd like to claim some credit due to Bardsy's tools. So she did a good job. Now, more broadly, most of the time you're a pretty good writer, and if you're paying attention and doing your job, largely this is going to be a confirmatory exercise. For a few people, it's going to be a wake-up call, right? Holy cow, why would you get that out of what I wrote? But the people who need a wake-up call are usually not going to be interested in getting one. So if you're listening, if you're trying this out, 7 times out of 10, it's going to go pretty good. And the other 3 times out of 10, you're going to get valuable information about how to get your first chapter to do the things it needs to do. All right. So let's dive into deeper comments. Cece, since you started, why don't you go first as our lead commenter?
Okay. I really enjoyed this chapter. I feel like you do a really good job of keeping like with current event relevancy. So like Coachella, like you're, poking fun at Coachella, and then there's this K-pop demon hunters type vibe coming in terms of the boy band and the soul snatching. I think as an initial chapter, it really works well because we set up their goals and like it's reintroducing their characters, and then also at the end there's like the setup of what's next. So I felt like you accomplished a lot in a really good, concise amount of words, which is great. And it was engaging. I think my only feedback is that because they have a lot of banter and that Benny is more of like the push your buttons kind, where Remy is the like, ugh, stop kind of character, her agency can get taken away sometimes, where it's like he is overriding her decision making because he's just going on without her. I felt like that particular instance with the coordinator, she was like, wait, and then he just, tramples over her. And I know there is supposed to be that comedy and that banter. And I don't know if in that particular instance it's that big of a deal, but I just wanted to mention it and have an awareness because I would hate for her not to have agency.
Good. Very good note. So Ariel jots that down. Pay attention to Remma's agency. Kim and Justin. Kim, why don't you go first?
Ariel, I'm so excited to be back in this world. Like when I saw it was a Benny and Remma chapter, I was so stoked. I loved the Coachella, the yellow security guard tunics, like the banter. It was working so well for me. I was trying to forget about the first one you wrote and kind of just look at this as isolated. And there was just a few like minor orientation things I think you could put in, specifically because Remma has such complicated emotions that she needs to work through. I would have liked a little bit more internality about how she's feeling and the emotion she's trying to work through at seeing Rosanna, just because it is such a big deal. I know their relationship is complicated, or at least like Remma makes it complicated. So I just think like to really shine a spotlight on that would help the reader kind of just understand the dynamics and what's at stake with this relationship and this partnering. But other than that, like seriously, I can't express how excited I am to be in this world again. So nice job.
Good. And that's the kind of enthusiastic response an author loves. And then the note about, I think that note ties into the context note earlier. So very good. Thank you, Kim. Justin.
Yeah, Ariel, I wanted to start by saying that, like, I think someone else said this too. Your commentary and also combination of modern concepts in a fantasy world is very well done. I was just talking to my partner recently about this, like, graphic novel I've been reading, and my biggest problem with it, it's set in a fantasy world, but then it just kind of casually throws in like iPhones and lattes and stuff like that, and not in a way that's warranted, and it just constantly brings you out. And so I wanted to like compliment that, your use of making this into something that is believable, and is like poking fun at, but also is still like under the filter of fantasy, and it's really great. The one of the big things that I wrote down, first of all, I know last time we talked about changing your starting sentence, your first sentence, and I see that you did that, and it's great. I love I wrote down specifically mentioning Benny in the first thing. It's a great, very strong first sentence. Something that I was confused about in the beginning was that, and I don't know, maybe a reread just would have made sense to me, but I thought that the reason they were taking this job was that they were so poor that there were no bounties, that they actually they were taking the security job because it was all they could find. So then when it came around that this was actually a bounty, and that this was like a cover for the bounty and stuff like that, like they had to take the security jobs so that no one knew who they were, but they also knew that there was a bounty here. I was a little confused in that in the beginning, because the way that it was phrased in the beginning sounded like that they were so poor, so desperate, that like this was the only thing that they could find, rather than, you know, what it sounded like by the end of the chapter was that like they took this because it just pays. They took this particular bounty because it pays well, whereas there were other bounties that they could have taken, they just didn't pay as well, kind of thing like that. That was just something that confused me personally. I wrote down that I love the drunk girl who falls off the bridge in the first place. That's hilarious. Anyone who's been to a music festival, that's such a staple. And that definitely was like everything from like the smell, like I could feel the rancid smell of like I think you said like beer and meat, like meat and mutton or something like that, but I was like, I know exactly how that girl's breath smells, and it sucks. And like that was probably the most visceral part of this chapter, and I loved it. I just wanted to say whatever version of this chapter gets made, that needs to stay, because it was amazing. It completely cemented me in the world. I loved the idea of like this bridge, like the placement of the bridge, and like the idea of like drunk people falling off of it. It's fantastic. Again, it's like I something that I really look for in fantasy novels is I like to know how worlds work. You know this about me at this point, and like I really love knowing about certain jobs that don't generally exist in, you know, real life, but like would in this context, because like you've created this festival. There is no, you know, person at an actual music festival looking to like save someone that falls off a bridge with their dragon, right? But it's totally something that would be here based on the context. So 100% cemented me in the world, and that was great as well. The last thing I wrote down was, and this is just because I know where you're trying to go with this book, because of what we talked about last time. I know that this book is going to deal a lot with the mental bridge between the two of them, and their strenuous relationship, you know, getting a bit strained. And I like that you see some fractures right at the beginning. There's a lot of like there's already a lot of friction between them. The only thing is I kind of felt at some points that there may have been like a little too much friction. Like I kind of wanted to see it come back around every now and then, just them like showing that they do actually care about each other. I just personally felt that like you know, Benny being sunny about something, and then Remma kind of like being like, well, not that, you know, not that kind of thing like that. It's great, but after a while in the thing, I started being like, all right, Remma's kind of bugging me too, like, you know. But other than that, it's a great chapter. It's a great start to this book, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Good. Thank you, Justin. You saw Justin laugh. We witnessed that. We witnessed it I don't know how long ago he read it, but we just witnessed him laughing at the memory of what you did. And that should warm any author's heart. Great chapter. Great chapter because it did all the things the first chapter needed to do. Couple notes, but overall, this was a tight chapter. I think it was better paced than the last version. I think the color was interwoven better. You know, other than what we talked about, no notes. So 2 thumbs up, fireworks. Great job, Ariel. Thoughts?
As always, thank you all for your comments. They're so helpful just getting this like as tight as possible. That was super interesting, Cece, talking about how Benny, just watching out for Benny potentially taking away Remma's agency. That's a really helpful note. Because I am having Benny be a bit more involved than the last story, and so I think I do just need to watch out for that. And yeah, the spotlighting of just like Remma's internality and emotions. Absolutely, I think that needs to be a lot more focused, especially with her relationship with Rosanna. And thanks, Justin, for the, I think, is it like anachronistic? Is that kind of like what it is? Just like the bringing in the modern things into like the fantasy stuff. I love like Knight's Tale and Monty Python and all that stuff. So that's cool to hear that's like working. And thank you for bringing up about the confusion about the bounty being like, is it a bounty? Is it not? I think because last chapter when I wrote last time, it wasn't like a bounty, and this time it was. I think something got lost in translation. So I need to fix that up. And actually this one, I'm deciding it's not going to be like the strain between Remma and Benny, where they're like, I changed the plot a bit. Because it was going to be about someone sabotaging their relationship, but I decided just to keep it more point blank, simple of like, they have a bounty, they're going to kill this like band, demon band or whatever. But that's helpful to know if like Remma's coming off. I'll kind of just check and see with other readers too how they're feeling about Remma, if their tension ever becomes like, Remma, can you cool it? That did happen in the last novella with beta readers, so I'll keep my eye on it.
Can you say that again, please, Ariel? What happened in the last novel that led to the cool it?
Oh, in the last novella, when I had beta readers, Benny and Remma got in a fight, and the way that they reconciled, they felt like Remma wasn't like nice enough. And so they wanted like, she needs a little bit more ease. And so it's helpful to remind me like she can be nice sometimes, not always has to be so antagonistic.
And we're hoping that beta reader feedback came from Retelling, that they said, wow, Remma was really uncool in that chapter. So Ariel is nodding her head. No.
Yep, it was.
Good, excellent. All right, great job, Ariel.
Bardsy delivers the tools, guidance, and support you need to produce compelling novels. Our well-researched and thoroughly tested approach includes our minimum complete story, a 90-second exercise that keeps your writing on track while fueling creativity. Bardsy Publishability Index, a 23-dimension checklist that offers attainable goals and provides actionable feedback. And our brand new comprehensive character developer that helps you construct unforgettable characters. Come see for yourself at Bardsy.com today. Try a workshop or enter our first chapter contest. Then, when you're ready, Elite Membership delivers writing groups, personal coaching, and a curated community. With Bardsy, your work will captivate everyone, from agents to publishers, and, most importantly, your readers.